They are among the most powerful forces on Earth, with swirling winds of more than 300 miles per hour and the strength to destroy nearly everything in their path. They account for 60 deaths and millions of dollars in property damage each year. They're called whirlwinds, funnels, twisters. These are tornadoes.
You can feel the ground shaking. Feels like a continuous small earthquake. Suddenly I realized that everything around me began to just suddenly started to lift. And I had debris hitting the car, and things were lifting and lifting and lifting. It's coming right at us. And I'm not going to see my wife. I'm not going to see my daughter again. And I thought, oh my gosh, I'm gonna lose my life out here.
From the British Isles to the French countryside to the heartland of the United States, tornadoes have been tearing up the landscape, decimating buildings, homes, and entire communities. Now, there is growing concern that the number of twisters and the regions they encompass may be changing, due largely in part to the effects of global warming. Fortunately, advances in science and technology are also on the rise, giving government agencies and broadcasters increasingly more time to warn the public of impending disaster. Will new science in weather forecasting help mitigate this increasing threat? They can occur wherever cold, dry air hits moist, warm air high in the atmosphere. Tornadoes have touched down in every continent except Antarctica, appearing where you least expect them.
There are a few dozen cases a year in France, and roughly speaking, almost 95% of tornadoes in France are of low intensity, with winds estimated at less than 200 kilometers per hour. Violent tornadoes, even if they are exceptional, can occur in France. There is no construction that is completely safe from these phenomena.
But of all the tornadoes on planet Earth, most are happening in a region of the United States known as Tornado Alley, where an estimated 75% of the world's tornadoes take place. An average of more than 1,000 twisters every year, 4 times more than in all of Europe.
The central part of the United States is really the perfect laboratory to create the storms that make tornadoes. We have lots of warm, moist air that comes up from the Gulf of Mexico, and lots of cold, dry air that comes over from the Rocky Mountains. And those are the ingredients that allow us to get thunderstorms, that warm, moist air underneath that cold, dry air. But we also have the winds changing direction with height, coming from out of the south at low levels and out of the west from over the mountains. And that produces the kind of storms that actually rotate, that are much more likely to make thunderstorms that'll produce tornadoes. And it's really the only place on the planet where that happens a lot of the time.
Tornadoes get their energy from thunderstorms, and thunderstorms get their energy from the warming that occurs during the day. A bit like a hot air balloon. It rises because it is warmer than the air around it, and therefore thunderstorms will form precisely when we have air close to the ground, which is really heated, which will rise, and as long as it is warmer than the air around it, it will continue to rise. So, it will form the cloud. And then the cloud, which will be able to extend to the top of the troposphere at more than 10, 12, sometimes even 14 kilometers of altitude. And so, as the day goes on, the energy is stored near the ground. This is where thunderstorms will mainly occur. All the violent phenomena associated with thunderstorms, such as tornadoes, gusts of wind, heavy hail, or heavy rain.
Central Oklahoma is a fertile breeding ground that produces more tornadoes per square mile than anywhere else on Earth. It is a place husband and wife storm trackers Val and Amy Custer call home. They live in the city of Stillwater with their 6 kids.
I have to be willing to switch gears from being a mom and a homeschool teacher to a storm tracker in the field. Usually we start our day off looking at computer models, especially when we've been looking ahead for a week or so out and we see trends that might lead us to believe there could be a potential storm chase day coming up.
Growing up, I really liked weather. As I got older, that grew, and eventually it led to having a passion to chase storms and having a passion to warn people and try to keep people safe.
I really think I got the bug for storm chasing when I was a child growing up in southwest Oklahoma. There is just wide open plains there, and it's just so fantastic because you would see the storms come in from the Texas Panhandle, and to me it was always very exciting.
Landing an internship at KWTV Channel 9 in Oklahoma City, Amy met Val Castor.
We started a really great friendship, and so much so that he wanted me to chase storms with him. One day we were chasing storms in the Texas Panhandle, and we were coming back into Oklahoma, and he pulled off on the side of the road and jumped out of the truck, and he asked me to marry him.
I wished it could have been in front of a tornado. That would have been so awesome, right? Proposing in front of a tornado, but then we would have had to have somebody on camera to get it.
Early this morning over in Norman, Oklahoma, meteorologist and storm researcher Eric Rasmussen begins his workday.
First thing we do really is to turn on the computer and start looking at the weather data. Before breakfast even, we look at all the satellite images and we look at all the computer model outputs and try to get a sense of what the target region might be.
Eric and his colleagues work at the National Severe Storm Laboratory and the National Storm Prediction Center in Norman, Oklahoma, part of the United States government's National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, or NOAA.
The folks in the Storm Prediction Center are continually monitoring the weather from all across the United States, including the radars, the computer guidance, all the surface observations. So they're keenly focused on how those conditions are evolving and whether or not it will be necessary to issue a severe thunderstorm or tornado watch, which they would then send out to the appropriate forecast offices and to the media.
After decades of being dismissed by more mainstream weather data collecting sources, storm trackers like Val and Amy have become an integral part of tornado warning operations of the National Weather Service.
As storm chasers, our primary role is to warn the public about severe weather. And when we go out, we always take a moment and we pray for the people of Oklahoma because what we do in the field is very important.
Val and Amy are assisted in their hunt for tornadoes by the high-tech equipment in their mobile truck, including a rooftop camera controlled by a joystick.
I have the ability to turn the camera 360 degrees, and why that is so important is because when a storm is back behind the truck and we're having to adjust our road options and go with the flow of the storm, sometimes we're having to drive away from it, sometimes we're driving toward it.
We also have a computer that's mounted there with a GPS readout on it. In the truck, we also have Wi-Fi. And Wi-Fi allows us to see the radar and see it in real time. Sometimes, that is a lifesaver as far as we're concerned.
We also use a computer where I do a lot of video editing,
Exactly.
And that video gets sent back to News 9 to be used on the air. We work closely with David Payne, Chief Meteorologist at News 9, and he will just collaborate with us, and we'll talk about where he wants us placed, where we might need other chasers placed. The goal is to always try to be in the best spot with the strongest storm.
David Payne is the chief meteorologist at Channel 9 KWTV in Oklahoma City. The station has long been considered a pioneer in severe weather coverage.
I was born and raised here in Oklahoma. Whenever there was any chance of storms or any severe weather growing up, I was so glued to the TV set, and I just wanted to see what was going on, and always has been such a big part of my DNA. The one thing about Oklahoma weather is how violent our weather can become. We have more tornadoes per square mile than any other place on the planet. Every day, the daily task is to give people the most accurate, the best information on where the life-threatening weather is, where these tornadoes are.
Most mornings, me and David will talk. I'll get his opinion about where he thinks things are going to happen. I really think Northwest Oklahoma is where it's at. Dave said, yep, I completely agree with that.
We'll look at all the different weather parameters, and we'll pick out that tornado target together. I want Val to be in that spot.
Using computer models and live radar, Val and Amy head out towards a severe storm system that is forming in rural Oklahoma. Damaging winds, large hail and tornadoes are predicted for the area. While most people under these circumstances would be heading away from the danger, these adventurers drive directly towards it. While en route, they will communicate their observations and feed live video to a local office of the National Weather Service, reaching the Storm Prediction Center in Norman. The Storm Prediction Center is often the nation's first line of defense against severe weather. Here, forecasters monitor weather conditions across the U.S. and relay forecasts of severe weather up to 8 days in advance. They search the skies for specific rotating thunderstorms where most tornadoes are born. The king of all storm clouds, known as supercells. It begins when warm, moist air blows under cooler air. These strong winds collide, start to spin, and create supercells. For a supercell to produce a tornado, its horizontal wind motion must go vertical, where a funnel extends from the clouds to the ground. Yet few supercells actually produce tornadoes.
I think the holy grail is to figure out how tornadoes form in supercell storms. We've known for a long time that the rotation is going on a few thousand feet above the ground, but we haven't been able to make that connection between the rotation aloft and the tornado at the surface. So just about everything we're focusing on right now has to do with how that creates the tornado.
It's very complicated to have a tornado form because, in fact, in the supercell, you have to have a balance between the updraft that comes to feed the supercell and this downdraft from the other side. And why not all supercells cause tornadoes?
The main driver in that thunderstorm is the updraft, okay? So the very first thing we do is we look for the updraft as it's going up. Typically it might be, I don't know, anywhere between 1,000 and 2,000 feet above the surface, let's say, but that's what we call the updraft base. That's where all the action happens. We locate what we think is the strongest thunderstorm updraft, the one that's going to eventually take over and become dominant, and we find that and we do our best to get under it. They're not just in one spot, they're moving at forward speeds of 20 to 50 miles an hour. We get under it, we stay with it, we're watching it close for signs of rotation.
On this particular morning, the forecast calls for the high probability that a series of dangerous twisters will be forming in the region of Oklahoma, where storm trackers Val and Amy are headed. Forecasters at the Storm Prediction Center discuss conditions with local weather offices and issue a watch, notifying people in the affected area to stay alert for changing weather conditions and probable warnings.
So the tornado watch is issued quite a few hours in advance of the expected tornadoes. The idea is that there's quite a few people that need to know that there may be tornadoes later that day. You're talking about emergency managers that have to get equipment put into place, like rescue people, hospitals that may need to make preparations for moving patients, and even the Weather Service offices need to know that the experts think there may be tornadoes so they can pay more attention to the conditions in their local area.
As storm trackers Val and Amy Castor advance, the clouds darken, the winds begin to howl, the sky opens up, and baseball-sized hail begins to rain down upon them. Undaunted, the pair pushes forward. When Amy looks around through the truck's rotating camera, she locks onto a sight they've been waiting for. It's a massive, swirling, cone-shaped tornado descending from the heavens and heading towards a small town directly in its path. Out in the field, Val and Amy Castor catch the first images of a tornado bearing down on a small town in Oklahoma. Val immediately contacts meteorologist David Payne back at Channel 9 studios.
I'll start yelling, tornado on the ground, tornado on the ground. And they know that they're gonna have to do a cut-in really, really quick. This tornado is a half a mile north of Highway 33. It is moving straight east. It looks like it might be 200 yards wide at the ground. It's moving towards the town of Kingfisher.
Using GPS, the storm chasers take off in pursuit.
When we first see that tornado touch down, I get pretty excited. There is so much going on at that moment that it can seem a little overwhelming. I'm looking at the camera. The shot needs to look great. The roads that we're navigating need to be checked out. We need to make sure that there's no bridges out. Sometimes I just have to look away from the camera lens and look at it, just through the windshield and just kind of take it all in, because really the camera just does not do it justice.
They send a live feed of the threatening twister to Channel 9 as David Payne is on the air.
Look at that debris cloud.
Yeah.
Man, David,
Yeah.
This thing got big and strong fast. This
Large.
is not a weak tornado, David.
No. And there you go. The meteorologists in the Weather Center are talking back and forth to me, telling me this is what's going on with this tracker, this is what's going on with the chopper. So many moving parts. And I've often called it controlled chaos, because you have to stay ahead of what's happening. And my job is to give people at home the quickest and earliest warning that I can.
Outside the studio is the station's own unique dual polarization Doppler weather radar. David assesses the information provided by the radar, as well as data from a model-based computer forecasting system known as MAX.
Gosh, when I first started back in the day, you would look at a piece of paper that came out in the morning and the evening, and it would tell you whether there might be possibly a storm or a higher relative humidity. That was it. And now the modeling is getting to where now we can take radar data, it's instantly ingested into the model, and it will give you where that storm is going to be in the next 5, 10, 15, 20, and 30 minutes. We need the data to be instantaneous. So the radar is always live. There's no delay for us. You're able to give the viewer at home, through the use of your storm trackers, your chopper, and your radar, the exact location of that tornado. We will make that call on. And I know that when I say, hey, this is going to be a News 9 tornado warning.
The local branch of the National Weather Service also issues a tornado warning to the community. A twister is imminent. Time is essential.
Today, for a tornado event, the average lead time is about 13 to 18 minutes. What our warning system is designed to do today is to offer people the opportunity to shelter in place. And unfortunately, there isn't a lot of time to do much more than that.
But what if it were possible to give people more time to make those individual choices, to stay and shelter in place or evacuate?
So it might be the case that a lot of people actually would prefer to get out of harm's way if it was possible to do so before a tornado strikes an area. If they were to do something like that, then they would need a lot more than 13 to 15 minutes to get out of the way safely. It would be really helpful if those individuals who would want to make those choices had information that targeted the time scale when they need to actually be making those decisions.
Weather values have no intrinsic value by themselves. They acquire value by being used by people to make decisions. How do people make the right decisions that ultimately leads to the saving of life and less damage to property?
Those are the kinds of questions being addressed at the National Severe Storms Laboratory, the research and development arm of the National Weather Service. When the Weather Service issues a tornado warning for a very large area, everyone within that area gets the same message. It's possible to get a severe thunderstorm or tornado warning while standing under clear skies. With less of an incentive for people to take any action, complacency can be the enemy when the next tornado strikes.
We can produce the best forecast possible, but if people don't take appropriate action, then it doesn't matter. So that's why we have to do things like social science research to make sure that the information that we give them is actionable so we can save lives and property.
Cody Berry, a research scientist at the National Severe Storms Lab, is leading a program to address the next generation of severe weather warnings, forecasting a continuum of environmental threats, or facets, seeks to fine-tune exact storm threats to specific areas. But facets is more than just the measure of science. It's also a study into human behavior.
Research at the National Severe Storms Laboratory has asked forecasters what goes into making a warning decision and have found that there actually is a social component to making that decision, that they are considering what is going on in society as they make that decision. In order for facets to be successful, we have to integrate social and behavioral sciences with the physical sciences in order to create actionable information for our end users.
Those are the kinds of questions being addressed at the National Severe Storms Laboratory, one of the research and development facilities of NOAA. The grids are actively moving in real time and assessing threats down to the exact streets. It's a very personal forecast, telling you exactly what the threat is at your location.
One of our areas of research is threats in motion, which is essentially taking the warning polygon that we currently have and moving it with the storm instead of it being stationary. So what that does is it gives people that are upstream of the warning polygon more advanced notice that a storm is coming if they aren't being weather aware. That when you're in the warning, you need to take action. Those that are outside the warning but are at increasing chances of being hit by a tornado, they can take their action at a lower threshold. What I envision for future tornado warnings is that once the National Weather Service forecaster issues that warning, it gets disseminated through a variety of methods. And that would include things like wireless emergency alerts on cell phones. That would include broadcast meteorologists on television communicating the current status of the weather situation and the warning. And it would also include third-party apps through private sector companies that can tailor those warnings to their individual users.
As technology develops, people and places at high tornado risk around the world will have the ability to receive targeted warnings sooner and more efficiently to help make their own decisions.
In France, we do not have a system such as those designed in the United States. So we're going to have the monitoring map that has existed since autumn 2001, which will warn about various severe weather phenomena. In France, there are generally between 20 and 50 cases of tornadoes each year. And these times are rather situated in the hot season, rather from May to October. And therefore, the regions in France, which will be mainly concerned by tornadoes, will be located on the northwestern quarter of the country, but also close to the Mediterranean regions. On the night of August 3rd, 2008, thunderstorm cells are developing. And very quickly, these storm cells get stronger. They take on a rather peculiar shape and look just like supercells. So, at that time, it must be admitted that people were not necessarily aware of the risk of tornadoes and of these supercells. Shortly after 10 p.m., there was a tornado. And this tornado has reached an extremely strong intensity since it was estimated at EF4, with wind gusts that must have approached 300 kilometers per hour. Unfortunately, this tornado passed over an urbanized area, and so inevitably, there were dramatic consequences.
There are other regions in the world where tornadoes can be a significant problem, and they really haven't been studied enough for us to understand, how major the problem is. But for example, places like Bangladesh appear to have some pretty strong and large and violent tornadoes, kind of similar or sometimes maybe even worse than what we tend to see in the central U.S.
So the North Indian subcontinent, especially the eastern part of it, is peculiarly prone to tornadoes. In fact, outside of the United States, this is the region that sees the most severe tornadoes, especially during April to June period. The primary reason is that we have a dry line between the dry westerlies with the moist southeasterlies from the Bay of Bengal. And in the upper levels, generally during this season, there is the westerly, subtropical westerly jet stream that comes over this region. Along with that, there is a very cold air advection in the upper level. Very potent conditions for severe thunderstorms, especially tornadoes. Because of this, some of the most severe tornadoes of the country and of the world happen over this region.
Bangladesh, for example, is a place that gets tornadic thunderstorms. They may not get as many storms as we get in the United States, but when they happen, they can be exceptionally violent. In fact, the single deadliest tornado we know of in world history took place in Bangladesh in the late 1980s.
On April 26, 1989, the Manikganj district of Bangladesh was struck by an F5 twister, the strongest tornado on the Fujita scale.
The most severe tornado recorded in recent years was the tornado of Manikganj in Bangladesh. In that tornado, around 1,300 people died, and more than 150,000 people were displaced.
It was the deadliest tornado ever recorded in the world. Several reasons account for the extremely high death toll.
The reason was mainly that over these regions, the houses are mostly with corrugated roofs, and temporary structures are more common. So in case of a tornado, these temporary structures are blown off and they become projectiles. So these cause more damages than expected. Problems that are there are epidemics, there are injuries, because of which also a lot of death and damages happen. There has been a lot of improvement both in India as well as the neighboring countries. One of the most significant improvements was the formation of the SARC storm project, under which a lot of data was exchanged or is still being exchanged between countries which have, neighboring countries which have a similar kind of problem during the period March to June. So during that period, the observations are shared amongst countries. If we expect people to take action, the action has to be communicated to them in time for them to act upon it. So 3 hourly nowcasts for thunderstorms, their severity, likely impact is communicated in India up to the district level and block level, which is as close as possible to the people, to the disaster managers, so that action can be taken and damages can be averted. With all these actions, we are seeing significant improvements, increasing awareness amongst the people.
Back in Oklahoma, while David Payne tracks the moving storm, Val and Amy are chasing the twister that's about to strike the town.
They like to get in close, and there are times where I'll be on the air, you know, and I'll kind of sweat a little bit and think, man, he is right there. He's in harm's way, but he's good, and he knows how to get out of the way.
I want to try and get us as close as possible to that tornado and still stay safe, all right? So close, but safe. I'm always about 10 miles ahead, looking at the map, deciding where to go.
In 2013, the El Reno tornado struck central Oklahoma with wind speeds of 165 miles per hour. Val and Amy were there.
We start getting hail, and the hail starts off as golf ball size, and then goes up to softball size hail. Just bam, 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 hail just falling all over the place, you can't see much. And then all of a sudden, boom, we pop out of the rain in the hail core, and there's this massive multiple vortex tornado on the ground to our east. I mean, several, like 3 subvortices just spinning around, kicking up dirt, and I'm looking at it, the largest tornado ever recorded. It's getting bigger and expanding over top of us. So we're backing up. Other storm chasers are turning around and leaving. We're getting winds flowing from the west to the east that's shaking our truck, kind of making us feel like we're floating on air, and that wind was flowing into it. That was a dangerous situation. Our pastor, Pastor Hardy at our church, sent this text, and obviously he was watching Channel 9 coverage, and the text went like this. Channel 9 has plenty of storm chasers, but your kids only have one, mommy and daddy. And then the second part of that text was, listen to your pastor.
Sudden changes in direction and rapid enlargement caught many off guard. 3 veteran storm trackers were killed.
Our job is extremely dangerous, but we have to be smart and use our experience and be wise about every decision we make, because we do want to make it home safe to our kids.
Many Oklahomans are descendants of generations that have grown up under the threat of tornadoes. For Val and Amy Castor, storm tracking is more than just a job. It's personal.
And so we were watching that storm that formed out west of Stillwater, and that thing quickly got strong. Obviously, you know, our house is in Stillwater, and I called the babysitter, and I said, okay, I want you guys to get in the cellar right now. So she got all the kids, they went out to the cellar.
As a mother, it was just horrifying.
For the scientists who study them, getting too close to tornadoes has always been a risky business.
Thunderstorms that produce tornadoes. This is an exceptionally dangerous place to try to collect data. Just above the ground, and with air coming down, potentially large hail in the area. It's just a very dangerous place to be. And so this has been one of our big limitations for a long time.
Prior to the tornadoes forming, there's a rotating column of air that extends all the way to the ground. But somehow the storm is concentrating that into a very small column, which becomes the tornado. And it's probably the mechanism is same as a figure skater bringing in their arms and bringing that angular rotation, that momentum inward, and causing it to spin more and more quickly. Just north of that rotating updraft in the supercell is where all the action seems to be in terms of developing the tornado. We've never operated there before because basically there's often baseballs falling from the sky, and because we didn't know there was anything interesting going on there.
Computer models are only as good as the data that's put into them. So, in the spring of 2019, the National Severe Storms Laboratory and several partners launched TORUS, targeted observations using radar and unmanned aircraft in supercells. Meteorologist Erik Rasmussen, one of the foremost tornado researchers in the country, is the NSSL's principal investigator for the project.
So TORUS has taken this approach where we're going to observe the supercell and the area right around where the tornado forms a lot better than we have in the past. If we understand those processes are going on, say, within 1 to 10 miles from the tornado, we can probably infer how they contributed to the development of the tornado itself.
The TORUS project is a uniquely scientific undertaking covering approximately 367,000 square miles, from Texas to South Dakota.
So what we're bringing together in TORUS is some new combinations of instruments. The NOAA Hurricane Hunter aircraft with its airborne Dopplers looking at the storm as they fly back and forth all day long. And another thing we're bringing in here is UAV aircraft that fly back and forth adjacent to the storm's rotation. Mobile mesonettes, these are big hardened vehicles like trucks with weather instruments on top. We can actually put multiple weather balloons in the air at once. And so that gives you kind of a swarm of observations around the low-level circulation and give us a whole bunch of really crucial observations of temperature, pressure, and humidity where we've never had them before. Those are new things that probably are going to give us pretty strong clues as to how the tornado is forming within the supercell.
NOAA is contributing its P-3 Hurricane Hunter aircraft to the project. As scientists fly close to the storms, they deploy global positioning systems or drop windsondes. They scan them with weather radars on board, giving them a detailed look at the structure of the storms and their intensity.
We're looking very close to where the tornado forms and trying to find out exactly how that happens and how the rotation on the horizontal axis gets turned into a tornado. We think it comes from a little pocket of intense rain or hail that forms miles away from that developing tornado and gives rise to this sort of motion. What makes a storm capable of producing those pockets of precipitation? What's the wind shear? How does the wind change with height in the atmosphere? If we can understand how those three steps hooked together, now we have much better tornado forecasts out to maybe 30 or 40 minutes.
Back on the road, still in pursuit, Val and Amy watch as the tornado rips through the neighborhood where they live, destroying houses and worrying that their own home may be next.
And so this tornado may be a little less than 2 miles northwest of our house before it dissipated, and there's our house in the foreground. This tornado is behind our house, and my kids saw it. They took a picture of it.
While the Castor's home is spared, others living in the town directly ahead may not be so lucky. The tornado Val and Amy had been chasing has passed completely through the town. They drive into the community to assess the damage. The widespread destruction is everywhere.
We had the opportunity to go out into the neighborhoods that were hit the hardest with the F5 force winds and do a damage survey and talk to some of the residents. Just to see the destruction, the aftermath is very difficult for us to watch because, lives are affected in ways that we don't even fathom. And the emotion that I felt was just overwhelming.
The twister has cut a swath of destruction that extends for several miles. While the devastation is vast, the human toll from tornadoes can often be higher in more rural than urban communities.
The rural communities tend not to have the same kind of communication infrastructure. If you think about how television covers storms and how large networks of people can come together to produce warning systems, that's a lot easier in a big city than it is in a rural community. Rural communities have to rely on, at times, less information to make a good decision to save themselves.
And that is particularly true in the rural southeast of the United States. Here in Lee County, Alabama, in 2019, the outcome of an EF4 tornado with 170-mile-per-hour winds killed 23 people.
For this F4 tornado is going to be about 70 miles as it went into Georgia.
The power companies indicated that approximately 116 homes were directly affected as far as that cannot receive power, and it would be somewhere within that number that were completely destroyed.
It's just the emotions. You know, when you lose a grandson, it's very hard.
We just try to put the pieces back together and go on and just try and rebuild.
Kim Kluckow-McLean, lead researcher of the Behavioral Insights Unit at the National Severe Storms Lab, wants to understand how these rural areas become so deadly.
The primary focus of my work is on the human behavior aspect, where people and severe weather meet. And I try to understand how people understand the threats that could be posed by severe weather, the ways that they are able to respond, the resources they need to respond.
Kim travels to ground zero of the tornado's destructive aftermath, where she meets with the survivors, emergency managers, and meteorologists. But her first stop is the local cemetery.
There had been these wonderful memorials set up to each individual that had perished in the tornadoes. There had been children who died, and that really struck the community very, very hard. And multiple members of single families that had passed away. For me, it was really important to know something about the people that we'd lost and try to put myself there as I considered what was the forecast and warning process like for them. Were they able to prepare themselves? How might new technologies have made a difference? And in a bigger sense, I was also studying the communication system. So I was interviewing broadcast meteorologists, emergency managers, and weather service forecasters.
Within the National Severe Storms Laboratory is the Hazardous Weather Testbed, a facility where people who are developing technologies can come together with the people who might use them.
We bring National Weather Service forecasters from across the country into the same room with research meteorologists and developers, and they try out new tools and technologies to figure out how well they work within the flow of a weather service forecaster.
We have started some collaborations with entities abroad. The UK Met Service is represented, Germany, France, even Australia, and parts of Asia. They can come in and work with us as we're developing new forecast technologies and techniques. On the social science side, we've started to collaborate on messaging strategies because different countries message risk to their populations in different ways. Different meteorological services have been set up in various countries that just have different approaches that they try.
We draw a lot of inspiration from what is done by American researchers and forecasters to learn from them. In Europe, we have a laboratory that was set up about 15 years ago called the ESSL, European Severe Storms Laboratory. And this laboratory aims to try to join forces in Europe to try to improve the forecasting of thunderstorms and all the severe phenomena associated with thunderstorms. They are working closely with the American researchers at the NSSL, National Severe Storm Laboratory, and also with the best American researchers at universities. They're going to propose, for example, tools such as a European database that bring together all the severe phenomena. We are going to test new products and also compare our weather forecasting methods.
A newly published study suggests the frequency of severe tornado outbreaks has risen since 1954. Could global warming play a role?
If we look at the period from early 2011 to early 2012, we set the record for the most tornadoes in a 12-month period, immediately followed by a record for the fewest tornadoes in a 12-month period. We now have fewer days per year that produce at least one F1 tornado or stronger. But we have a lot more days that have a lot of tornadoes, say 30 or more tornadoes. These things have taken place at a time when the global temperature has been increasing.
When you look at the current database, which includes all tornado cases, effectively, we see a huge increase in the number of tornadoes over the past 10 to 15 years. It's found in Europe, but it's also found in the United States, and of course, in France. The fact that the climate is getting warmer, we want to say yes, it will warm up closer to the ground, therefore more thunderstorms, and therefore we have more risk of tornadoes. But simply what will happen, probably with climate change, is what we call the jet stream. If the jet stream is shifted slightly further north from its current position, we would indeed have less wind with altitude. We would have less energy to form violent thunderstorms. And if we have less energy to form violent thunderstorms, there is less chance that supercells will develop and therefore tornadoes. In the end, it is difficult to have a consensus on climate change and the increase in the number of tornadoes.
But a warmer climate may mean bigger tornadoes, like the EF5 that struck the city of Joplin, Missouri in 2011. This monster storm reached an extraordinary width of 1.6 kilometers. The Joplin tornado killed 158 people and caused $2.8 billion in damage. Back in Oklahoma, storm trackers Val and Amy Custer stop and walk through the destroyed town. They learn more about who survived this particular disaster and who did not.
We were walking down this one block, and I talked to somebody, and the house was gone, okay? There was just a little bit left. The bathtub was there, and as the tornado was coming, right before the tornado hit, there was a family. There was a mother and a father and 3 smaller kids, right? So what they did is they put the kids in the bathtub, and then the mother got on top of the kids, and then the father got on the very top. And I believe they tried to pull something over top of them, like a comforter or something like that. But when the tornado hit, every one of them survived, just with just minimal injuries. I just attribute that, to God.
People die in tornadoes primarily in 2 different ways. One is the building collapses around them and lots of stuff falls on top of them. But the most common way is probably actually essentially getting hit by debris that's flying horizontally. So if you're inside of a home, you want to be in the lowest floor, in a small interior room, no windows. You want to get as low as you possibly can in that room. Put on a bicycle helmet. Protect your head from blunt force trauma. If you're in a mobile home, you need to get out of it. Those tend to not be very safe at all.
It's time for Val and Amy to begin their journey home and reunite with their children.
Storm chasing for us, it's more than a job, it's a calling. With all the new technology, there's always going to be a need for a storm tracker because you got to have eyes in the field. You got to have ground truth.
We're so humbled to be in a position where we can broadcast information to hundreds of thousands of people that watch, and it makes a difference in people's life. We feel like it's a calling from God.
If you can give any family a warning that something horrible or potentially could kill them is headed their way, sometimes their homes or their businesses are wiped out, and they listened and they walk out of that, that's what matters. At the end of the day, that's the only thing that matters.
Val and Amy Castor leave the site where the destructive tornado blew in from the sky. But they are content in the knowledge that they have contributed to getting the word out about this awesome force of nature and have saved lives. Lightning. It's one of nature's most spectacular and potentially deadly displays. It is unpredictable, powerful, and strikes with unfathomable frequency.
There are between 6 and 8 million lightning strikes that occur worldwide every day.
What lightning really is in its most basic sense is it's a giant spark that's happening between two areas of charge in a thundercloud.
While natural disasters, such as earthquakes and cyclones, may claim more lives annually, the effects of lightning strikes can last a lifetime.
As electricity travels through the body, it can have significant impacts on the circulatory and nervous systems of the people that it comes in contact with.
There are after effects which can be definitive at the neurological level, with notable marrow damage and paraparesis, damage to both lower limbs, which makes it very difficult for people to walk again.
But how exactly is lightning created? And are there any positive benefits to this extraordinary phenomenon?
Paradoxically, while they are dangerous, they are a condition of life on the planet. If we had no more lightning, we would die.
Lightning is one of the most powerful phenomena on Earth. Each strike travels at a speed of about 128,000 kilometers per second. That's half the speed of light, and temperatures can reach almost 28,000 degrees Celsius. These dangerous bolts, only the width of a finger, are also one of nature's most recurrent spectacles.
Lightning strikes billions of times around the world every year, packing temperatures hotter than the surface of the sun and thousands of amps of current.
There are between 6 and 8 million lightning strikes that occur worldwide every day. That works out to an average of 100 lightning bolts that occur somewhere in the world per second.
Globally, lightning strikes cause over 4,000 fatalities a year, with more than a third of those incidents striking people who work outside, like farmers, or those who engage in outdoor recreation.
When there is a golf tournament, as soon as there is a lightning strike, the tournament stops. Because if the person points his club up to the sky, there is every chance that he will be struck by lightning.
At the PGA Tour's Western Open in 1975, 5 professional golfers were struck by lightning. All of them survived, while in some cases the injuries were career-threatening. For others, the injuries were career-ending. Today, most golf courses are equipped with lightning detection or early warning technology that allows course officials to call off play if there is lightning activity in the area. However, those same systems aren't in place for all outdoor sports.
Major League Baseball does not have a lightning policy. NFL does, but Major League Baseball does not. That becomes a huge problem for me. I'm the forecaster for the Indians, and I'm trying to tell them, guys, we have a big thunderstorm coming. You got to shut her down. We can't shut it down until the umpire says we can shut it down. So I just sit and cringe and pray that nothing happens.
Organized sports are of particular concern due to the large amounts of people gathered. It is very rare that lightning strikes affect just one person in a crowd. Ground currents account for approximately 50 to 55% of all lightning strike deaths and injuries, and can affect several people at once.
More people are struck or impacted by what is known as ground current, when lightning strikes nearby and the electricity travels through the ground and then comes in contact with the person.
On September 16, 2019, in Kingston, Jamaica, a secondary school football match is disrupted when a lightning bolt strikes nearby, sending multiple players and a referee to the ground.
You see people playing football, and suddenly you hear bang, and they're all stiff on the ground. So it didn't strike anyone, but the lightning hit the ground, and it's spreading through the ground.
When a bolt, which contains at least 20,000 amperes of current, strikes land, the electricity spreads through the wet soil, which acts as a highly charged conductor. Even though the voltage decreases with distance, it is still a potentially deadly current, capable of traveling several hundred meters from point of contact.
It occurred in a soccer match when lightning struck nearby and the electricity traveled through the moist ground and up through the legs of the soccer players and the referee. As electricity travels through the body, it can have significant impacts on the circulatory and nervous systems of the people that it comes in contact with.
As electricity enters the body, it short-circuits the electrical signals that keep the heart, lungs, and nervous systems running smoothly. That disruption can cause cardiac arrest, seizures, or a host of other potentially lifelong pathologies.
There is a noise that is made, thunder, and the noise can cause a ruptured eardrum and sometimes permanent deafness. There are after effects, which can be definitive at the neurological level, with notable marrow damage and paraparesis, damage to both lower limbs, which makes it very difficult for people to walk again.
2 of the players are admitted to hospital after complaints of chest pain and are released the next day. Several players and some spectators report eye pain. Another player, failing to respond to treatment on the field, is carried out on a stretcher. He survives, but is unable to speak or move his left side.
What is less resistant to electricity is the central nervous system, the central and peripheral nervous system. All it takes is a flash of lightning passing through a nerve, and the nerve is paralyzed.
Nerve damage can also be caused by a different type of strike called side flash. It is the second most common cause of casualties and injuries after ground current.
In some cases, you can be struck by what is known as a side flash, and that is when you're standing under an object or near an object that has been struck by lightning, and the electricity jumps from that object into you.
In Dalian, China, an anchor for Dalian Weather TV is covering a storm from the rooftop of a multi-story building when lightning filled the sky. Feeling a shock in his forearm, he drops his umbrella and reports numbness in one of his hands.
With the reporter in China, it's possible that lightning jumped from the fence that he was standing near and the electricity traveled through his body. Now, when that happens, you can get nerve damage because there's a lot of electricity flowing through your body at that time. The nerve damage could cause tingling or numbness in the hand.
Wet soil and metal are both powerful conductors of electricity, and so are live trees due to their sap and water content.
Seeking shelter under a tree during a thunderstorm can be especially dangerous.
You could be struck. If you are standing near a tree, the tree could get struck and you could get hit too. And I just think a lot of people ignore that risk because they haven't directly been impacted by it before. Unfortunately, specifically with lightning, when you are impacted, it's too late.
On March 12, 2021, 4 gardeners in Gurugram, India are taking shelter under a tree during a rainstorm when they are indirectly struck and knocked unconscious.
Most people lean against a tree with their back against the tree. It provides a direct path from the tree into the person's chest, which can then interfere with the respiratory system and impact the heart.
The victims are immediately taken to hospital, where they are treated for burns.
That electricity passes through the body and causes burns, not necessarily due directly to the electricity, but because of the energy inside. It can melt objects that you may have on it. And when you receive a burn, you absolutely must empty your pockets. Because it can melt keys, for example, which are in the pockets, and burn your legs very, very intensely, like buttons, like anything that can, coins, anything metallic can lead to burns.
The third most common type of lightning strikes are called upward leaders, also known as streamers.
Lightning occurs, there's a downward leader from the cloud, and it's looking for a place to strike. Upward streamers emanate away from objects on the ground and then come into contact with the downward leader, creating that full lightning stroke. An upward streamer contains electricity and can actually electrocute somebody that way.
While lightning can cause significant bodily injury, its emotional effects can't be underestimated.
Depressive syndrome and fatigue sometimes affects 50% of people without knowing why. But we go from a status of good health to a status of bad health. So we mourn, and mourning is difficult to do, whether you are young or old. You go from being sick or even disabled sometimes. So inevitably, there is a personal depressive feeling.
To ensure the best chance for safety, experts recommend implementing one very important rule.
When thunder roars, go indoors. And whether you're on the land or in the water, the safest place to be during a thunderstorm is actually not outside. So whether you're in the water or on the land, during a thunderstorm, you need to immediately seek a lightning-safe place. And a lightning-safe place is a fully enclosed metal vehicle, like a car, or a modern building that has electricity and plumbing running through the walls.
Normally, if you have a full building with plumbing and electricity, it's a pretty safe building because any charge from the lightning that enters that building will probably be carried through the electrical or plumbing lines into the ground and be dissipated. Inside of a regular hard-topped car is also relatively safe. And that's actually because the car itself acts as what's called a Faraday cage, which is a giant metal box, and so any current that interacts with that will be carried around that exterior of that metal box or Faraday cage.
But in one area not prone to thunderstorms, the shock and awe of a lightning show is simply too irresistible to ignore. Thousands of people flock outside for a first-hand glimpse of a rare, electrifying spectacle, despite the warnings to stay inside. There is a saying that lightning never strikes the same place twice. But over Lake Maracaibo in Venezuela, massive thunderstorms create lightning at least 300 days out of the year. Strikes can occur as many as 1,000 times in 1 hour, earning it a special distinction as the most struck place on Earth. Why? The region contains all the necessary ingredients for the perfect thunderstorm.
You have to have this warm, moist air that can be lifted into the atmosphere with high amounts of instability. Instability is when the atmosphere cools faster than the air that's being lifted into the atmosphere. When you have warm, moist air and a lot of atmospheric instability, like occurs in the tropics in South America, in Africa, and Southeast Asia, you can get these prolific lightning storms that produce thousands to millions of lightning events over the course of a year.
Lake Maracaibo's unique topography assists in the formation of these storms. The Caribbean Sea flows into the lake, providing an endless supply of warm water, while the tropical sun pulls additional moisture. At dusk, strong winds whip through the surrounding mountains, forcing warm air high into the troposphere. This forms huge cumulonimbus clouds.
Cumulonimbus is full of water droplets. At a certain altitude, those water droplets turn into ice. Due to gravitation, this ice will then tend to descend, and through friction will actually generate electricity. We have a separation of electric charges, of charged particles, which will in fact produce electricity within this cloud.
A positive charge builds at the top of the cloud, while a negative charge builds at the bottom. Electrical charges between these opposites eventually grow strong enough to overcome the air's resistance to electrical flow, and sparks begin to fly.
The first signs of lightning actually begin with intra-cloud activity, sparks that will occur inside our cloud. And then, after a while, this intra-cloud activity will propagate towards the ground and thus reach the Earth.
The negative charge at the bottom of the thundercloud moves towards the ground, forming an invisible path called a step leader. The charge's path connects to positive charges surging up from the ground, completing an electrical circuit.
This is what we call lightning strike, or in more scientific terms, the return arc.
While most people are familiar with lightning that strikes the ground, it only accounts for a small portion of what storm clouds actually create.
Cloud-to-ground lightning makes up about 10 to 30% of most thunderstorms. The other 70 to 90% of lightning in a thunderstorm is actually known as in-cloud lightning, which occurs within the cloud itself, between multiple clouds, or from the cloud to the air.
Though Lake Maracaibo's lightning events are exceptional, nearby countries Brazil and Argentina hold lightning records of their own. October 31st, 2018. Over the night sky of Porto Alegre, Brazil, a single bolt of lightning slices through the atmosphere. It stretches from the country's southern tip more than 700 kilometers or 440 miles to the edge of Argentina. Normal lightning flashes typically measure only a few miles long.
The lightning that struck and traveled 440 miles was a primarily in-cloud lightning flash that occurred in a mesoscale convective system. A mesoscale convective system is a very large complex of thunderstorms that can extend for hundreds or thousands of miles.
The clouds in these giant systems have the potential to create vast amounts of electrical energy.
And because these occur in large complexes, there's a lot of electricity traveling through all of the clouds. And lightning wants to dissipate that charge and get into a neutral state, and wants to have a cloud that has no charge. So when there's a lot of electrical charge, there's a lot of potential for the lightning to travel around through the clouds in what a lot of people think of as spider lightning. And that is the horizontal lightning that you see extending along the bottom of clouds, and it's trying to use up all of the electrical charge in these large clouds.
Another record-breaking strike takes place in central Argentina on March 4th, 2019. It lasts 16.73 seconds and is the longest-lasting lightning strike on record.
The lightning strike in Argentina was another very long-lasting in-cloud lightning flash. And it lasted over 15 seconds. Again, this was in a mesoscale convective system. A lot of these occur in South America and the Great Plains of North America.
The Great Plains state of Oklahoma is, in fact, the previous record holder for the longest in-distance flash. It occurred in 2007 and was 321 kilometers long. The longest in-duration record is held by one bolt that flashed over Provence-Alpes-Côte d'Azur, France, in 2012 for just under 8 seconds.
If you draw a line between Bordeaux and Strasbourg, well, the south of this line corresponds to the most struck by lightning.
Lightning occurs most frequently in Italy and France, with France seeing thunderstorms 250 days out of the year.
In certain areas, such as the southeast of France, there are periods of so-called Mediterranean storms, the famous thunderstorms that we used to call Cévennes, and which, on the other hand, occur at the end of the summer, and typically in September.
A Cévennes episode consists of very violent and highly localized storms formed when warm and humid air from the Mediterranean heads north into France. When it hits the mountains of Cévennes, it meets the cold air at high altitude, resulting in thunderstorms. These storms typically happen in autumn and can last for several hours.
In Nîmes, in September 2002, a stationary thunderstorm produced lightning for more than 10 hours. The inhabitants of Nîmes saw lightning non-stop.
The stationary storm in Nîmes, like the ones in South America, were also part of a mesoscale convection system. The storm resulted in catastrophic flash floods and at least one lightning fatality. At the other end of the spectrum, both the North and South poles are the least likely to see lightning. Thunderstorms need to follow the basic recipe of rapidly rising warm, moist air colliding with cool, dry air above. But at high latitudes, that hotter, moist air is far less common. Those ingredients are also less common off the west coast of the United States, particularly California.
California doesn't typically see a lot of lightning in a given year. The Pacific Ocean and its cool waters near the west coast of the United States help to impede the development of thunderstorms. So when lightning occurs in Southern California, the Bay Area, or other parts of California that aren't typically lightning prone, it gets a lot of attention.
In February and March of 2019, Southern California is battered by a string of thunderstorms. They are spawned from a weather event known as an atmospheric river, one of Earth's conveyor belts that moves heat and moisture from the equator towards the poles.
An atmospheric river is a high-altitude river of high moisture that came from the Pacific Ocean into the west coast of the United States. Associated with this river of moisture were strong winds in the upper levels of the atmosphere, helping to trigger a large number of showers and thunderstorms, producing a lot of rain over a 2-week period over Southern California. In addition to all of this rain came thunderstorms.
So in a thunderstorm, when you have all of this rising air, you have all kinds of stuff rubbing together, and that creates an electrical charge, and that electrical charge needs an outlet.
On March 5th, these powerful thunderstorms produce an unusual and enormous amount of lightning that is seen all the way from Los Angeles to Santa Barbara, a distance covering over 145 kilometers. 2,000 cloud flashes and 1,000 cloud-to-ground strikes are reported in just a matter of 2 hours.
Having a significant lightning event like this, where you had 2,000 lightning events that occurred in just a couple of hours, makes up a significant portion of the yearly lightning of Southern California in a very small period of time. This can have significant impacts on the region, including power outages, potentially injuring or killing people if they were to be struck by lightning, and even triggering wildfires.
This rare lightning show turns into an evening spectacle. Thousands of awe-struck residents flock outside to capture the event on their cell phones. The Weather Service issues warnings on social media for residents to head inside.
I think the big thing about thunder and lightning is, having an awareness about it. People get very cavalier attitudes when there's a thunderstorm around. A lot of people want to go out and look at the thunderstorm rather than take cover. And that's something that's pretty annoying as a meteorologist. I appreciate and I understand that power. And I want to tell people of that power, but they're fascinated by it. They want to go look at it.
Fortunately, no injuries or deaths are reported, but several areas suffer power outages. A few small wildfires are ignited, and shortly after a plane takes off, it's struck and is forced to land.
You don't want to fly an airplane into a thunderstorm. That's a bad idea to start with. But they're designed to be able to handle that if it does end up flying into an area where there could be lightning.
Aircraft are insulated from lightning. The electricity actually travels around the body of the aircraft. So for the most part, aircraft are safe from lightning when it occurs, and the electronics in the aircraft are not affected.
While thunderstorms always have lightning, lightning doesn't always need a thunderstorm. Perhaps there is no better example than the mesmerizing lightning show created by the Taal volcanic eruption on January 12, 2020. June 4, 2020. Lightning strikes the 168-meter-tall Washington Monument in Washington, D.C., injuring 2 National Guardsmen.
They're part of a very large thunderstorm that actually injured some people as a result. We went back and looked at the data, and we found that the Washington Monument is struck between 1 and 5 times per year on average.
May 28, 2018. The Eiffel Tower, with a height of 324 meters, is struck by lightning as thunderstorms sweep across the country.
It is estimated there are between 5 and 6 lightning strikes on the Eiffel Tower each year.
The Empire State Building in New York City is struck about 25 times a year. How do these structures withstand such massive electrical charges? Is there any truth to the myth that lightning always strikes the tallest object?
Because of its prominence, its size, it will have a capacity for attraction. However, the day you have a lightning strike, which occurs a few hundred meters away, you can legitimately ask yourself why this lightning did not strike the Eiffel Tower, and that is a question of probability.
The higher that an object is in the sky, the closer it is to the source of electricity and the more prone they are to being struck. So tall objects like TV antennas, wind turbines, or large buildings can be struck more frequently than others. Just because there's a tall object doesn't mean that's going to be the lightning that's struck. The entire lightning event occurs at about 200,000 miles per hour, and it's jumping at about 50 meters per step in the lightning process. Whichever object gets struck released an upward streamer of electricity that was able to interact with the downward leader of the lightning before another upward streamer. So it doesn't always have to be the tallest object. It's the object that released the electricity that came into contact with the lightning first.
However, because tall structures and buildings are more prone to lightning strikes, they have been designed to withstand them.
But skyscrapers have been designed for a long time to be able to withstand lightning strikes because they're very tall objects. They attract lightning very well. Normally, if you look at the top of a skyscraper, you'll see a bunch of little rods sticking out as part of lightning rods and as for some charge dissipation. So what happens is it's an area to focus that current, and then it takes that current and then drives it around the building and to ground so that if the building is struck, it's not a risk to anything inside the building.
The principle of a lightning conductor is to capture this electricity and then to conduct it along the ground to render its effect harmless, both for the installations and for people. In the case of the Eiffel Tower, imagine that this structure is completely metallic. In other words, when the lightning current propagates, it will actually follow the metal structure of the Eiffel Tower, and therefore, inside the Eiffel Tower, most people will be protected.
Though tall structures might be more susceptible to a lightning strike, the fact of the matter is, lightning can happen anywhere.
It is not possible to determine with certainty whether the lightning will strike on such and such street, for example, or rather on another street, or even worse, on such and such building, or that one, which makes it dangerous.
Lightning can even strike as far as 40 to 80 kilometers from the parent thunderstorm.
There are some instances when the anvil of a thunderstorm can be pushed very far downwind of the actual core of the thunderstorm, and you get lightning 25 to 50 miles away, but that is very rare.
These strikes are referred to as a bolt from the blue.
Occasionally, you get a lot of electricity near the top or the side of a thundercloud. As the electricity looks to discharge itself, sometimes it finds that discharge point miles away from the thunderstorm. That occurs as a bolt from the blue.
Typically, these bolts travel from 9 to 16 kilometers from the storm. They are also much stronger than a bolt coming down directly from a thunderstorm cloud.
And this is because you have larger distances between the source of electricity, the thunderstorm, and the discharge point. So you need to have a more powerful lightning stroke to bridge that distance and cause that lightning.
Even though bolts from the blue occur miles away from the thundercloud, they are still caused by a thunderstorm.
Every thunderstorm produces lightning because that is the very definition of a thunderstorm. That is to say, for the World Meteorological Organization, a thunderstorm is simply a phenomenon where at least one electric arc will occur.
However, lightning itself is not as dependent. It doesn't always need a thunderstorm to spark.
Aircraft can trigger their own lightning, and this occurs when a plane takes off and flies through a charged area of the atmosphere. It gets electric charge on the outer body of the aircraft. And as it continues to fly through regions with different amounts of electrical charge, it tries to dissipate that charge, and that can trigger its own lightning flash.
You can shuffle your feet on a carpet and zap somebody. That's static electricity, and that's kind of where things get going in the atmosphere, just on a vast scale.
Lightning can even happen in severe snowstorms. This phenomenon is known as thundersnow.
A lot of times this is actually triggered by tall TV towers or wind turbines because they're closer to the cloud base in the wintertime. And because there's an electric charge at the base of the cloud, and there's electric charge then near the top of these wind turbines or these TV towers, you can get a discharge which is known as thunder snow.
Perhaps the most well-known cases of lightning without a thunderstorm come from volcanoes.
Volcanic lightning is extremely exciting because it combines two of the greatest powers on the planet, volcanoes and lightning. Volcanic lightning is similar to, but different from meteorological lightning. In a volcanic eruption, you have an explosion of ash, magma, tephra, and sometimes even water in this volcanic eruption. And as all of those particles are colliding in the eruptive plume, you get static charges that then discharge as volcanic lightning.
Before January 12, 2020, Taal volcano in the Philippines was a large caldera filled by picturesque Taal Lake, whose 267 square kilometer surface plunged as deep as 172 meters. After 40 years of slumber, the volcano suddenly awakens, blasting through the lake and spouting ash into the stratosphere. Within this gigantic plume develops an amazing lightning show. The explosion causes billions of super-hot ejected particles to collide and then separate. In addition, the plume reaches so high into the freezing stratosphere that water ejected during the blast converts to ice crystals, turning the explosion into a dirty thunderstorm.
And this was a phreatomagmatic eruption. And what that means is that there was a lot of water in addition to the magma that was erupted, because the Taal volcano is actually in the middle of a lake. As a result of the water, magma, and ash rising through the atmosphere, there was a very dramatic explosion of volcanic lightning.
Volcanic lightning is not uncommon, but the amount found in Taal's powerful eruption was out of the ordinary.
More than 30,000 lightning events were detected in the Taal eruption over the course of 15 hours.
Yet despite the incredible number of lightning flashes, the Taal volcano did not break the record.
In late December 2018, Anak Krakatau volcano in Indonesia erupted and produced the most volcanic lightning that we have seen on record. More than 300,000 lightning events were detected over the course of a week in that volcanic eruption.
It surely provides a jaw-dropping spectacle for us, but volcanic lightning is not only shock and awe, it's actually a useful tool for meteorologists.
Volcanic lightning is extremely interesting to study as a lightning scientist. It provides more information about what's actually occurring in the volcanic eruption, and it can help us to better understand meteorological lightning as well. Because we don't have to identify where lightning may potentially occur, because it's going to occur right there during that volcanic eruption, having the instrumentation around the volcanoes allows us to directly measure and study certain aspects of the lightning process, whether it's the pre-lightning electrification of the ash cloud or the exact trajectory that the lightning takes through the ash cloud.
In turn, those studies assist with public safety.
It's important to understand the exact process of how lightning develops and how lightning occurs so that we can use that to better understand when lightning will occur in meteorological instances, which will improve weather forecasts, improve lightning forecasts, and improve lightning safety.
Lightning can also occur within another type of natural disaster, the wildfire. In August of 2020, the state of California is besieged with wildfires. But these fires aren't just the result of lightning, they are also the cause. August 2020. The state of California is ablaze with wildfires. Over 4 million acres are charred, forcing mass evacuations. It is the largest wildfire season ever recorded in California's history. At the core of the crisis is dry lightning. It strikes 11,000 times over the course of 72 hours, and there simply isn't enough rain to put out the sparks.
Dry lightning occurs when a thunderstorm produces very little precipitation, but a lot of lightning. In these instances, they're particularly dangerous for wildfire applications because the precipitation that would normally help extinguish a fire is not there, and the lightning that would trigger the wildfire could trigger a fire that is not easily put out.
Dry brush and high winds not only fan the flames, they spur the fires to create their own weather. As a wildfire billows into the sky, a vigorous updraft lifts particles high into the atmosphere. These particles act as condensation nuclei, attracting water molecules to form a storm cloud called a pyrocumulonimbus cloud. These fire clouds produce their own dry lightning, the same phenomenon that triggers the fires in the first place. It becomes a vicious cycle, and it appears to be getting worse. 9 of the state's largest fires have occurred since the year 2000. This leads many to ask, is global warming to blame?
As temperature is one of the necessary ingredients for the formation of thunderstorms, it can be assumed that an increase in temperature will mechanically generate more thunderstorms.
If climate change causes surface temperatures to warm and not the rest of the atmosphere, you could have more instability in the atmosphere, which could produce more thunderstorms that could produce more lightning. However, if the entire atmosphere warms, instability in the atmosphere could actually be decreased, which would reduce the amount of lightning. So climate change and lightning will be a topic that needs to continue to be researched over a longer period of time as we have longer and longer records of global lightning data.
While reduced lightning seems like a good way to mitigate its destructive forces, life on Earth would be severely threatened. For one, lightning produces ozone, a vital gas in our atmosphere that helps shield the planet from harmful ultraviolet sunlight. Without any lightning at all, life would cease to exist.
Paradoxically, while they are dangerous, thunderstorms are a condition of life on the planet. They contribute to recharging the Earth's atmospheric field with electricity. We need electricity. If we didn't have thunderstorms, if we didn't have lightning, what happens is what is known as a leakage current, which actually tends to discharge the Earth of its electrical capacity.
Lightning helps transfer negative charges to the Earth, as the Earth releases a positive charge. Without this exchange, the electrical balance between Earth and the atmosphere would disappear in minutes.
According to some scientists, it would only take a half an hour to see us die if thunderstorms and lightning stopped on the planet.
Lightning is vital, and it demands to be respected, whether on land or over water. Lake Victoria is the largest lake in Africa and provides economic and food security for roughly 30 million people living near its shores. But the lake is also deadly.
One of the most dangerous areas on the planet is Lake Victoria. There are about 5,000 deaths every year on this lake. It's fishermen who continue their subsistence activity, and unfortunately, they are struck by lightning because it's one of the most struck areas on the planet. And when you're on a lake, well, there's no way out.
The conditions of the lake spawn cyclical lightning storms. As daytime breezes flow off its relatively cool surface toward the warm, humid land, the interaction of temperatures invariably forms thunderstorms over the water.
Being in the water during a thunderstorm is especially dangerous. Water can be a very good conductor of electricity, and if you're in a body of water, lightning striking that body of water could very easily transfer the electricity from the water to you.
Though any kind of lightning has the potential to be deadly, there is one type whose power goes unrivaled, the superbolt.
Lightning that occurs over the ocean tends to be more powerful than lightning that occurs over the land. Some of these lightning strokes are tens to hundreds of times more powerful than the lightning that occurs over the land, and these are what have been colloquially named superbolts.
Superbolts release anywhere from 10 billion to 1 trillion watts of electrical power. That's enough to power an average home for an entire month. Why superbolts form over the ocean and why they are so strong is routinely debated. One likely theory points to salt. In water, salt splits into positive and negative ions that help conduct electricity. When lightning strikes, the more ions present, the more efficient the electrical charge, which is why salt water makes a better conductor for electricity than fresh water. That discharge causes a higher peak current and a brighter flash. Fortunately, superbolts make up less than 1/1000% of all lightning strikes. Nevertheless, being caught at sea during a thunderstorm, superbolts or not, is less than ideal.
When lightning strikes a body of water, these impurities can actually help conduct the electricity for greater distances than if it were to strike soil or another object on the land. If there are objects, people, fish, boats, or anything near that lightning when it strikes, that electricity can transfer from the lightning to the water and then to those objects that are near the lightning.
Most lightning strikes over water occur just off the coast versus over deep ocean areas. Because of this, moored boats are especially vulnerable, like this sailboat docked in South Boston Harbor. The current hits the mast and travels quickly through the boat, setting a portion of it on fire. No one is on board and no injuries are reported nearby, but its fuses are blown and the boat sustains significant electrical damage.
While boats cannot be totally protected from lightning, you can add lightning protection to boats that help to direct the electricity away from sensitive objects on the boats, like equipment room or the passengers on the boats.
Just like tall buildings and structures, boats can be equipped with lightning conductors. However, there are numerous places around the world where conductors aren't feasible, and thousands of lives are at stake. Florida, August 2020. Lightning strikes the Millennium Falcon ride at Disney World Resort. As a precaution, the park shuts down the ride.
Anytime you're dealing with large crowds of people outdoors and a thunderstorm comes in, that is a huge problem. You have huge, very tall, hundreds of feet tall metal roller coasters sticking up into the sky, and thousands of people, tens of thousands of people out and about at that park. Now you throw a thunderstorm coming that way. Now not only do you have to have time to shut down the rides, you have to be able to get people into some kind of a shelter. And when they may not necessarily have a frame of reference for where to go to find security, they're gonna just panic. And there have been cases where, you know, thunderstorm rolls in, people just stick it out. They'll just park themselves in a picnic shelter or something somewhere. That's not necessarily the safest place to be.
A big part of things we can do to improve our response to lightning is being able to better predict when and where there will be lightning so we can take the good precautionary measures. That knowledge is very important, an important direction that lightning research is going.
Hey baby, slow down, wait for me. It's pretty rocky here, hey.
The study and tracking of lightning and thunderstorms are the means by which meteorologists help mitigate the dangers of this unpredictable, powerful phenomenon.
So there's 3 primary categories of instruments we can use to study lightning. So the ones that you would see maybe on a TV broadcast are going to be studying where there's a large amount of current being transferred in a thunderstorm. So you're measuring that point where it's striking ground. We can also use satellites. We have some brand new satellites that were launched a few years ago, which are studying where there's optical lights being emitted by the lightning in a thunderstorm. So we have that visual reference of what the lightning looks like at the top of the cloud. And then our third and final way are a lightning mapping array. And what that does is it measures the radio frequencies being emitted by lightning, and we can actually map out the channels that the lightning takes within a cloud so we know where the lightning starts and how far it travels and what height it's at.
French lightning detection company Meteorage also uses a radio frequency sensing network that constantly scans the electromagnetic field variations created by lightning.
One of the most interesting applications of these detection systems is to anticipate a real risk of a storm on a site in the next half hour, or even an hour. It is from this anticipation of the displacement of the storm that we warn an incalculable number of sites which need to be alerted to be able to set up measures for evacuating personnel, or even to protect certain processes sensitive to storms. When you work in the construction industry, when you work with the aviation sector, when you work with the electrical sector, these are entities, large entities, that have high expectations in terms of safety. And in fact, this obliges us to put in place enormous means to ensure their safety.
As soon as a radio frequency signature is detected by the sensors, lightning measurements and locations are transmitted to the company's central operations in a mere matter of seconds. Then warnings are immediately dispatched.
On a very busy day, it is not uncommon to send more than 30,000 messages. These calls can be voice calls, can be sent by SMS. And so, in this example, I myself received a text message indicating an alert, thunderstorm approaching. Put in place your preventive measures. And so, presto.
These warning systems and tracking devices are helping scientists save lives, but they still aren't 100% foolproof. The best course of action still remains to be weather aware and to head indoors when thunder roars.